Section number 18 of Christmas and Christmas Lore. This is a Librivox recording. All Librivox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit librivox.org. Recording by Linda Marie Nielsen, Vancouver, BC. Christmas and Christmas Lore by Thomas G. Crippen. Use of carols. As to the manner of using the old carols, no doubt it was for the most part domestic, and just as certainly in the old days as in modern times, they were sung in the streets on Christmas Eve, or in the early morning, not always in a spirit of pure devotion. Hone, in his Ancient Mysteries, page 90, quotes a curious stanza which, by its spelling, might seem to be of the 15th century, unless indeed it is, as we strongly suspect, a clever modern imitation. The lewd people then algates agree, and carol singin' every Christmas tide. Not with sham fastens bought John Condall, and holy boughs about, and all aside. The Brennan for him eaten, and him drink, and laughin' merrily, and makin' rout, and poppy and dancin', and hemrage ne swinkle, ne no thing else 12 days they would not. In the Everyday Book, Volume 1, page 800, he says, "These ditties, which now exclusively enliven the industrious servant maid and the humble laborer, gladdened the festivity of royalty in ancient times. Henry VII, in the 3rd year of his reign, 1487, kept his Christmas at Greenwich. On the 12th night, after High Mass, the king went to the hall and kept his estate at the table. In the middle sat the dean, and those of the king's chapel, who immediately after the king's first course sung a carol. As to whether carols were to any great extent substituted for the usual psalmody in church, we are not very fully informed. Certainly Herrick's carols were designed to be sung in the chapel royal at Whitehall. At Exeter the various church choirs used to go about singing carols through the night, and then mustered in the cathedral at 7 in the morning, where they joined in singing the old 100th psalm before the usual service. Davies Gilbert, writing in 1822, says that in the west of England, down to the end of the 18th century, on Christmas Eve, it was customary in many houses to spend the time in carol singing from 7 or 8 in the evening till late into the night, the intervals being devoted to the consumption of hot cakes and ale or cider. Then on Christmas Day these carols took the place of psalms in all the churches, especially at afternoon service, the whole congregation joining, and at the end it was usual for the parish clerk to declare in a loud voice his wishes for a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to all the parishioners. At many places in Wales, a service called Pligan, i.e. dawn, was held at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes the parson was escorted from his house to the church by young men with torches, and the church was lighted with colored candles. The character of the service varied in different places. Sometimes there was celebration of the Holy Communion. Sometimes the parson sang the first verse of a carol, the clerk sang the second, and then carols were sung round the church in procession. In some places, refreshment was provided in the shape of hot broth. These services, which might seem suggestive of a survival from the midnight mass of pre-Reformation times, are said to have generally died out in the Episcopal Church soon after the middle of the 19th century. About the same time, it is said, Pligain services began to be held in Welsh nonconformist chapels, but of late they seem to have been more usual on the morning of a new year. Footnote: the Welsh language has ample supply of carols. Hone mentions 2 volumes, one containing 66 carols for Christmas and 5 for summer, the other containing 40 Christmas carols, 1 for winter, 3 for May, 9 for summer, 1 to the nightingale, and 1 to Cupid. End footnote. Much akin to the Welsh Pligain is the custom that prevails in Norway. There, as in all Scandinavian countries, the usual type of religious thought is Lutheran, and the midnight mass is therefore not to be looked for, but is replaced by a service called Julat. The regular time for family gatherings is Christmas Eve, but in the morning before daybreak, the whole parish assembles in the church for a service of praise, which consists chiefly of singing. Rows of candles are arranged along the backs of the benches, so that the church is brilliantly illuminated, and as many Norwegian parishes are of great extent, it is no uncommon thing to take a journey of several miles to participate in the Julat. In Lapland, the parishes are of still greater extent, so that the journey to and from the church may occupy 2 or 3 days. And it is said that the sleigh ride with its jingling bell is looked forward to by the children for months together. This seems the most convenient place to mention what is reported from Finland, where every sailor and fisherman endeavors to spend his Christmas at home. Accordingly, all boats come into harbor on St. Thomas's Day, 21st December, and preparations for Christmas begin. On Christmas Eve, everyone takes a hot bath, and the evening is spent in singing hymns and telling stories of adventure. All rise before dawn and proceed to church, the journey being often of many miles, sometimes over a frozen arm of the sea. Lights are set in the church windows, and a cross is placed over the door to show that there is Christmas joy within. Special holiday fare is given to the cattle, and a sheaf of corn is set upon the roof, that the birds may keep festival. A very curious custom obtained in several parishes in the Isle of Man. People assemble in the church on Christmas Eve. Oil Veri, i.e. Mary's Eve, they called it. Each in turn sung a carol as a solo, holding in his or her hand a lighted candle. The carols were very lengthy, but the singer had to stop if the candle went out. The ceremony ended at midnight. At Crondell, in Hampshire, until about 1860, carols used to be sung from the top of the church tower. A similar custom still survives in a few towns in Germany, and was formerly much more general. Luther's carol, "From Heaven Above I Come to You," is the one usually sung, and the melody being led by a trumpet or cornet. Of late years, a peasant custom has grown up in many places of church choirs or glee parties, perambulating a village or district, singing carols and collecting donations for some well understood charitable object. This practice sure embodies the genuine spirit of Christmas and deserves general imitation. End of section 18. Recording by Linda Marie Nielsen, Vancouver, BC.